7 deadly sins: greed, lust, envy, pride, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. There are 7 YouTubers in particular that perfectly represent these 7 deadly sins. Starting with greed. Greed is thought of an insatiable desire for wealth, power, or material possessions. It focuses on acquiring more than one needs, often at the expense of others. And nobody encapsulates this more than MrBeast himself. Now yes, MrBeast has helped a lot of people. That's without a doubt. He has provided to the poor, fed the hungry, and has even brought the vision back to the blind. These are all amazing acts of kindness when seen from the surface level. However, due to recent controversy, there may be a more sinister reason behind all of this giving when looked at on a deeper level. MrBeast's main goal in life has always been to make the best videos possible, and to achieve that, he's willing to do almost anything. After experimenting with numerous types of content in the past before he got popular, he finally landed on his first big hit, giving a random homeless man $10,000, which was one of the first videos on the MrBeast channel that skyrocketed his views and his subscribers. This one video determined what he was going to do for the rest of his YouTube career. After figuring out that this sensational giveaway style of videos was going to get the most views every single time, it is all that he focused on. A document written by MrBeast titled "How I Always Win" was recently leaked to the public. This was a training document that would be sent to you if you got a job at MrBeast Studios. Inside, a section titled "No Does Not Mean No" explained that there was always a way to make something work for a video, even if people don't let you onto the property, even if you need to take advantage of others, even if you need to break some rules. No does not mean no, and you could always get something done to make the best MrBeast video possible. This falls perfectly in line with the definition of greed, acquiring more than one needs, often at the expense of others. Due to the recent controversies, it has been stated that MrBeast mistreats his employees, puts his contestants in harsh conditions, and even hires if it means that he is able to make the best video possible. But we'll dive deeper into that a little bit later. For now, just know that MrBeast's generous giveaways might just be his vehicle to becoming the most powerful man on earth. The same cannot be said for the YouTuber who showed his wrath. Wrath is described as extreme anger or hatred, often leading to violence, revenge, or destruction. It is a powerful emotion that blinds judgment or rational thinking. And ImAlexx is the perfect description of wrath. Surprisingly, if you watch ImAlexx's videos, you would have never suspected the wretched acts that he executed on his ex-girlfriend. In his videos, ImAlexxx seems to come off as the pinnacle of a good guy. He adopted his soft boy persona and would make commentary videos that often made fun of people who express traits of aggression, hypermasculinity, sexism, racism, or other bad behaviors. But ImAlexxx is a wolf in sheep's clothing because as soon as the camera turns off, he becomes worse than the people he criticized. An 80-page Google Doc was released by ImAlexx's ex-girlfriend, detailing the emotional and physical abuse that she went through when she was in a relationship with him. Throughout the relationship, Alex displayed unchecked wrath through his regular outbursts. When him and his girlfriend got into arguments, he lashed out with insults, calling her derogatory names and emotionally manipulating her when she didn't conform to his demands. His anger was triggered even by minor issues, like being unavailable for calls, making small noises, and talking to her friends, which led to emotional blackmail and further verbal abuse. His wrath often escalated into threats of physical harm, including telling her to die in a hole and threatening to break her neck. There is even a particularly disturbing instance captured on a video call where he threatened to bash her head against a wall with a brick.
I'm gonna bash your head against the wall with a brick if you don't shut the fuck up.
This level of uncontrolled rage is the embodiment of wrath, as his anger took to a destructive form. And even after the relationship ended, Alex continued to act on this wrath. He tried to manipulate Alice into silence, threatening to create contradicting stories to discredit her if she spoke out. And this behavior is an extension of his desire for revenge and control, both of which are rooted in wrath. Oh, and on top of all, he also called her the N-word for no reason. ImAlexx's behavior highlights the sin of wrath and how it can manifest not only in outward anger, but also in prolonged patterns of abusive behavior, manipulation, and violent tendencies. Oftentimes, one's own insecurity and jealousy can result in outbursts of wrath, but for people like Brent Rivera, they can manifest in acts of pure envy. Envy is defined as jealousy or resentment towards others for the possessions, achievements, or qualities. Just by looking at the kinds of videos that Brent Rivera makes, you can see the envy leaking out of every aspect in his content. Brent Rivera is famous for blatantly copying other people's videos and ideas. He'll see a video that is performing well on a channel and just steal it. But oftentimes, he won't even change anything about the video. He'll take the same thumbnail, the same script, and the exact same concept. Envy can manifest in the form of trying to diminish the value of others' achievements by replicating their work rather than creating something new. Brent's copying of content might suggest a lack of confidence in his own creative abilities, but also an envious desire to attain the same level of success as those whose ideas he is mimicking. And to top it off, he never credits the people who he copies from and will even go to the extent to make fun of them if they speak up. The people he copies from will sometimes be smaller YouTubers who have had one video on their channel blow up, like in the case of ImDrew, where Brent took his entire video idea of spending 100 hours in capsule hotels even down to the color of his shirt in the thumbnail. This reflects an envious attitude where instead of celebrating the originality of others, he attempts to ride on their coattails. And yes, if I'm talking about Brent Rivera like this, I gotta be honest. I got this video's idea from these other videos and I'm not gonna try and hide it. Go check them out. But that's not even the worst part about Brent Rivera's envy. Plagiarizing videos is one thing, but speaking down on the people who you have plagiarized from is a whole different level of envy. While filming a video in a haunted hotel, Brent Rivera bumped into another YouTuber, Tyler Oliveira, who was actually trying to make it the exact same video. Understandably so, Tyler knew that Brent was a popular YouTuber who often faked and stole content, and Tyler questioned Brent about his authenticity. Instead of refuting the claims head-on, Brent had a different approach that showcased a dismissive and elitist attitude towards Tyler, making fun of the size of his channel.
Go have fun with your 100 subscribers, guys.
This behavior reflects envy in its inverted form. By projecting his power over Tyler and minimizing his success, Brent is attempting to maintain his own sense of worth and security. His mocking tone suggests an underlying fear of being surpassed by others or losing relevance. In this case, envy manifests not as Brent wants what others have, but as him wanting to ensure that others cannot achieve what he has done. Brent's entire reaction to being questioned by Tyler was simply to belittle him, using his larger platform as a way to undermine Tyler. In this case, envy often manifests as a fear of losing one's place or power, and Brent's aggressive defense of his status, along with his attempts to have Tyler kicked out, shows his unwillingness to share the spotlight or face challenges to his authority. This all suggests that Brent's public persona might be driven by an anxious envy of losing his position to emerging competitors. Brent Rivera's reliance on competitive and materialistic content, coupled with his interactions with other creators and his need to portray himself as superior, fits within the framework of envy. But interestingly enough, these actions are similar to another YouTuber who exhibits both envy and extreme pride. Pride is defined as excessive belief in one's abilities or superiority over others. It is often regarded as the deadliest sin as it leads to arrogance and self-centeredness. And there is no YouTuber more fit for this title than Jack Doherty. Jack has always wanted to be a YouTuber and would stop at nothing to get where he is today. Starting off with simple pranks and capitalizing on the fame of other YouTubers, he was quickly able to rise in the YouTube rankings to become one of the platform's most subscribed to creators. And yes, Jack has a lot of money and what seems to be a lot of fame. But is any of this legitimate, or is it all fake money and bots that he purchased to subscribe to his channel in a disgusting display of his own pride? Well, let's start off with his actual content. Jack exhibits a strong sense of self-importance and arrogance. His repeated involvement in dangerous and disruptive stunts like vandalizing stores and creating chaos for views shows a prideful disregard for the consequences of his actions. His focus on gaining attention and subscribers, even at the risk of personal harm or legal trouble, reflects an inflated sense of his own importance and a belief that his fame entitles him to act without any consequences. He believes that his actions are justified and that his fame and follower count can afford him the right to disregard social norms and public decency. Jack's interactions with figures of authority display his pride in full. A prime example of this was his appearance on the Dr. Phil show, where he disrespected both his father and Dr. Phil. He refuses to acknowledge any wrongdoing or even change his behavior despite being confronted, which highlights his inflated sense of self-worth and believes that he is above the law. Recently, he hired a security guard so that he could smack people and run away to hide without any consequences. He shows off his riches in every single video, even though he got them from disingenuous means. His actions reflect a deep-seated sense of self-importance and entitlement that drives his controversial and often harmful behavior, even going as far as exploiting barely legal girls for platforms like OnlyFans. Pride is often associated with and can result in many other deadly sins, such as greed, envy, and even gluttony. But there is one YouTuber who encapsulates this even better. Gluttony is described as the overindulgence or overconsumption, particularly of food or drink, to the point of waste or excess, and it reflects a lack of complete self-control. I'm sure you already know of them, but there is nobody who describes this sin better than the one and only Nikocado Avocado. But something is a bit different this time. Mukbang videos involve the preparation of an insane amount of food attempting to finish it. There are some YouTubers who do this tastefully, only eating the food that they need, while other YouTubers take it further and fill the table with delicious looking fast food that they will definitely not be able to finish. And then there's Nikocado Avocado, who fills the entire room with an ungodly amount of toxic waste, only to successfully eat it all by himself. Avocado would launch his YouTube channel where he was initially documenting his healthy vegan lifestyle with his then boyfriend. His channel gained decent traction with content centered around his healthy vegan lifestyle, but it was when he started filming mukbang videos that his popularity began to soar. Initially, these mukbang videos featured a reasonable amount of vegan food, which Nick would usually finish. However, about a year into his YouTube career, he publicly expressed his dissatisfaction with the vegan community and announced his departure from it. His meals began to include meat, and while this isn't bad in itself, he started to ramp up the portion size and visual appeal of his food to stay competitive in the mukbang niche. This shift led to progressively unhealthier eating habits and larger portions, resulting in a significant weight gain. Over time, Nico transformed from a slim vegan into a morbidly obese individual, who now relies on a mobility scooter. His meals will often feature hundreds of multicolored Takis, giant trays of instant noodle packets, and melted cheese sauce that smothers every inch of food. This shift from moderate to excessive eating, along with his need to continually up the ante to maintain his viewers' interest, exemplifies the sin of gluttony. And this behavior not only contributed to his dramatic weight gain, but also highlighted his indulgence and lack of self-control, the central traits of gluttony. But the difference is, Nikocado Avocado is the only YouTuber on this list who has since repented for his sins. Nico revealed that this was all an act. He has since lost all of the weight and has claimed that his glutinous persona was simply a character that he used as a social experiment. He wanted to see how we, the audience, would react to someone overweight versus someone who is skinny. It is truly great to see that he has changed his life for the better, and that takes a lot of hard work and dedication. But the same cannot be said for our next individual. Sloth can be described as laziness, idleness, or a refusal to act when action is needed, but it can also refer to spiritual apathy and neglect of responsibilities. You would think that one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform would need to work extremely hard in order to reach those heights, get those views, and achieve a number of over 30 million subscribers, but this is not the case. SS Sniper Wolf is the prime example when it comes to lazy YouTube videos. She reacts to popular stolen TikToks, and that's pretty much it. In these videos, Sniper Wolf, aka Leah, often performs minimal effort by simply reacting to content rather than creating original material or providing an in-depth analysis. She provides one-word responses, boring facial expressions, and often has nothing at all to say about the video she's reacting to. This type of content can be seen as a lazy shortcut to generate views and engagement, relying on the existing creativity of others rather than contributing new ideas or substantial effort herself. Her reliance on such low effort content where the primary engagement comes from the video rather than her own actions reflects a broader pattern of sloth. This approach prioritizes ease and convenience over the hard work and creativity that more involved or original content would require. To make it even worse, Sniper Wolf's sins of sloth bleeds into her personal life. One recent situation showed her lack of effort and disregard for a terminally ill fan's request. Despite her massive platform and potential to make significant impact, Leah displayed notable laziness by repeatedly blowing off an opportunity to meet a 10-year-old girl who was gravely ill and had expressed a strong desire to meet her. But this situation is only made worse by Sniper Wolf's behavior in the aftermath of this request. While the little girl's family was eagerly trying to arrange a meeting, Sniper Wolf neglected to make any meaningful effort to fulfill the request. Instead, Sniper Wolf continued to focus on her personal enjoyment, even sharing moments like eating cake and going on vacation on her Instagram, which starkly contradicted the urgency and importance of the fan's life or death situation. This prioritization of personal convenience over potentially life-affirming gesture highlights her sloth, especially towards the audience that provided her with all of her riches and saw past her sinful content. But finally, we have the most destructive sin of them all. Lust is described as an intense or uncontrollable desire, usually for sexual pleasure. This desire can often hinder judgment of what is moral and what is sinful. There are many YouTubers who have destroyed their own own empire because they just couldn't keep it in their pants. But this is not the case for our next candidate. Instead of destroying their own audience, Kris Tyson destroyed the biggest audience on all of YouTube. Kris Tyson was an essential part of the MrBeast crew. At the time, he was one of the most beloved cast members on the entire channel and was actually MrBeast's childhood best friend. They did everything together, except for one thing. Although it seemed like Kris was a decent guy in the videos, what happened behind the scenes was truly shocking. In a private Discord, Kris would often be talking to people he saw as friends about extremely explicit sexual acts and even sending them over porn. You know what I'm actually talking about. This is definitely weird, but it's not necessarily illegal. The only problem is the people who he was friends with were minors. They were underage, making this a completely illegal act of lust. Kris's underage friends would call him things like big boy, daddy, sexy, and at one point asked him if they could be each other's Valentine. In one interaction, Kris tweeted an image of his Patreon and said that if he could get one more person to sign up, he would be releasing some very explicit images. And one of his underage fans replied with, "I'm your first Patreon, big boy," and Kris responded with, "I posted some fire nudes for you, please no share." In addition to this, much of the stuff that he was sending over to these minors was under the category of lolly. And if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry that I'm the one that has to tell you this, but it's basically anime you-know-what of small people. Allegedly, Kris was obsessed with lolly and even bought art from a well-known artist so that he could hang it up on his own wall in his bedroom. He would share this lolly around the MrBeast group chats and even encourage others to take a look. This is a different level of career-destroying lust. Now, to public knowledge, Kris has never actually came into a legal contact with minors. Although after Kris transitioned into a female, there has been some more stories that have come out regarding Kris's use of lust to gain power and destroy reputations. Kris's former assistant released a Twitter thread claiming that Kris was emotionally manipulative and would often sexually assault her. A person by the name of Jess would make friends with Kris over Twitter DMs. They would eventually meet, and Kris would offer Jess a job as an assistant. Jess had a bit of a crush on Kris, and Kris knew this, and lust took over. Usually, an assistant helps complete menial tasks, paperwork, booking flights, grabbing food, and other simple things, although Kris had something else in mind. Kris would often love bomb Jess, telling her that she's the most important person in Kris's life. He did all of this just to gain their trust, and would use that to express the deadly sin of lust. The conversations always leaned in the direction of affection and sexual, where Kris would send explicit Snapchats, messages, photos, and even videos. And there is a bunch more that Kris did, which I'm honestly not even comfortable talking about. But to make matters worse, when the lust was not fulfilled, Kris would then fly Jess out and demand that they both sleep in the same bed. And things got so bad that it then escalated and Jess would but things only got worse. Even though Jess may have consented to these acts in the moment, the power dynamic of Kris as the boss and Jess as the assistant makes this a horribly lustful look for Kris Tyson. The deadly sins will often lead the sinner down a horrible path of broken careers and livelihoods. In the case of Kris Tyson, not only was their life destroyed by the allegations, but the internet's biggest empire is currently crumbling due to the greed of its leader and lust of his friend. But to make matters worse, we didn't even talk about the fact that he abandoned his own family. Now, these are only 7 of the many sins and the 7 YouTubers which best represented them. But if you want us to make another video going into even more deadly sins, make sure to subscribe. But for now, make sure to check out this video next.